You don't quite know what to do with yourself after 2 years of doing nothing else but one thing, trying to get inside the mind of another person. I set out from the beginning. It was for me about stripping away the icon or the caricature and getting down to his spirit and who he was. So for me it was, I mean, you do all the meticulous things, like I watched every hour of footage I read every book on his life, and so when we're dealing with voice and movement, it was this thing of watching all that and obsessing and spending so many countless hours with it. But then at the end of the day, it had to feel like it was happening right now for the first time. And so for me, I just tried to live with it as much as I could for that 2 years.
There's a lot of people saying a lot of things, but in the end, you gotta listen to yourself.
In that moment, Elvis the man was sacrificed, and Elvis the God was born.
I'm gonna show you what the real Elvis is like tonight.
So yeah, Polly Bennett was she was right by my side through the whole process of filming, and not just for the big performances, but for moments where I'm just sitting around the dinner table, and so we would find home movies, and we find these moments that were somehow could express his humanity, and how does he do the little things, but also how do you recreate a performance that you want it to be identical, but it's got to feel like it's never happened before. And so Holly and I we would watch countless hours together, and the whole thing was just asking why does he move that way? Why this? Why that? Why? And I mean, a lot of it in the beginning was looking at his inspiration. So it wasn't even watching Elvis's physicality, it was watching the physicality of different artists that were down on Beale Street and seeing why that sparked such a love in Elvis. And so looking at the way that Little Richard moved, and looking at the intensity that Sister Rosetta Tharpe or Big Mama Thornton sang with, and so a lot of it was looking at, trying to see it through his eyes, at what inspired him to move in that way. And so, yeah, but we did such a variety of things. I mean, we did tap dancing one day, or we would do swing dancing another, because some of it is getting you in the context of that time period. Tap dancing was for dexterity of the way that he moves his feet on stage. So it's just kind of widening your zone of comfort, And Polly and I had so much fun together.
Reverend once told me, things are too dangerous to say. Sing.
It's so wild. I didn't get sick the entire time. And I now hear so many people who have that same experience. They're going through a certain period of their life where it demands a lot of them, and their body will hold on probably just because adrenaline is pumping. And then at a certain point, then when you finally cross that finish line, the adrenaline just drops out, and yeah. So I just, I mean, it was just really, it was all-consuming. So then, yeah, then my body just said, all right, I need a rest. You don't quite know what to do with yourself after 2 years of doing nothing else but one thing, and trying to get inside the mind of another person. And so, yeah, it's an ongoing process, I think. Tom as well, I mean, I think at one point just saw that I wasn't, that I was all consumed, and his advice to me was, every day I try to read something that has, even if it's 10 minutes, just read a little bit of a book that has nothing to do with the job that I'm doing. And you sort of replenish yourself and remind yourself of other things that are happening. So that's something that I've tried to take on, of you know, little hobbies or whatever while I'm working.
We are the same, you and I. We are two odd, lonely children reaching for eternity. The greatest show on earth.
I was a very shy, introverted child, and I didn't have, I mean, my parents would try to get me to play with other kids, and I just wouldn't want to. And then I discovered two things. One, when I was 13, my dad bought me a guitar, and that became the thing that I would do for 8 hours a day, but also acting. And when I was on the first set that I was ever on, I felt suddenly this life come into me that I found my tribe. Suddenly I was around other kids that I actually had that connection with, and they were so generous to me. And then it was, once I kind of realized that there was a way that you can actually be an actor as a career, and that there's a craft behind it. And then as I was watching films, because my dad always had old films playing. We watched a movie every night, and he loved Turner Classic Movies. And so I remember seeing James Dean in East of Eden and just being so enamored by him. That combination of vulnerability and strength. And then on the waterfront and seeing Raging Bull and Taxi Driver. And then I became obsessed with them and trying to find how they did what they did, because it was so mesmerizing. It was like watching magic, you know? It's like close-up magic where you just don't know where the card's going. And so I became obsessed with that and started seeking out teachers. And then I had mentors who really inspired me to say that if I'm gonna, you know, do this, then I want to contribute something. And you know, as an actor, you're really trying to, you know, bare your soul a lot of the time, and that can be a hard thing to do in front of a camera. And so I became obsessed with that, of how do you find truth like that? We all know that we're watching a movie, or going to a play and sitting in a dark theater, but why is it that we've been telling stories around campfires since the dawn of time? And why is it that when I come out of a movie theater and I see a great film, that the trees look more vibrant and the birds sound like diamonds? And so I just became obsessed with that, and it was something that just made me, I guess, fall in love with it, and that's just carried me through.